Let's compare the new Storm 400X to the older, probably one of the most popular aperture lights, the 300D Mark II and 300X. One of the questions that a lot of people asked is how much bigger it is, and that was my concern too when buying this new light, because I've wanted a bicolor light for a long time, but knowing that the 1200X was out, I knew a smaller fixture will be coming, so I didn't want to get a 300X for my two 300Ds. I wanted to upgrade these to a newer light. So this is the 300D Mark II case, and this is the 400X case right here. And if you're looking at it from that angle, I positioned them to the same plane right here on the left. The cases are exactly the same width, so if you put them on top of each other, they match. And the only difference is, you can see here, the 400X is probably an inch or inch and a half longer and maybe 2 inches taller. And there's a couple differences in the construction. It looks pretty much the same as far as design goes. There's no shoulder strap anymore, so these hooks are missing from the ends. These rubber corners are now fabric. The stitching on the old ones are actually like stitching. On the 400X, you only get paint, so I'm expecting this to actually come off, even though this one was a better quality. This probably cost more for them to make, so that is something I expect. This one has this wire web thing on the top that you can tighten and loosen, which is either made for stands or modifiers, so you can slide stuff in and carry it that way, which is why the handles are longer to accommodate a little bit more items here. There's no other difference in the actual case, except this one has two business card holders, and the front of this business card holder actually has a little card in here that shows how to pack the light. So it's basically a top view of the case. So let's see, I'm going to open this up and pull some items out as I go, and we're going to compare it to my 300D. So this is the 300D power supply, and this is the 400X power supply. So if I just set them down, you can see that this one is a little bit shorter, a little bit taller, but obviously this one is way more skinny, and this one is just a little bit more fat. So the design is still very Aputure-like, and they use the same exact mounting plate on the back. So the clamps are actually cross-compatible to put it on a light stand. There's no difference there. The only other difference that is a major change is these older ones had the power and DMX connections on the bottom, and then on the new ones, all the connections are on the top, so you can sit it down on the ground like this. That's where the fan is, and it just pushes air through. There's a vent on the top where the air comes out. These 300Ds were completely passively cooled, so no fan. The power cable, the AC cable, is exactly the same. So I actually have the 400X power cable right here. They are using the same connector that works with both, and I'm pretty sure the length is also the same. And look at this comically large zip tie or Velcro tie. This is on the 400X. And if I pull out the cable from the 300D, which is the same power cable, those came with these cable ties. So this is the size difference that we went with. I never had a problem with these. I still have all the originals attached, even after using this light for probably 4 plus years. But I mean, that's nice, it's easier to grab. Now, the power cable to connect the actual light fixture to the box is very different. In the old lights, this was basically a 5-pin XLR, which was a pretty standard cable, and you could potentially loop and make them longer by attaching them, which was obviously not recommended, but it was possible. With the new cables, the cables are much more beefier, and you cannot connect them together because these cables are basically waterproof, so they have seals, and the way that they connect to the actual fixtures is different. And the colors on the tips tell you which one goes where. The red one goes into the light, and then the black one goes into the output side of the fixture. I'm not a huge fan of this because they did mark the output as red on the control box here, where you close it down. But it actually, you have to attach the black cable to this red thing. So if they wanted to be a little bit more consistent, I could have seen a different version of this so it tells you how it corresponds to the red, and maybe even attach red to red and then use it a different way on the light fixture itself. You cannot do it backwards because the actual plugs are different. They are the same physical size and shape, but inside this is a female and this is a male, so you can only do it one way. This one also has the comically large Velcro on it. So going forward, I'm just going to pull out the reflector real quick. The reflector itself is very, very similar to the one in the 300D. It's just a little bit longer, but obviously they are the same size, balance mount. It's just deeper. So the beam angle is going to be a little bit different, which is designed for each light individually. The case was designed with the actual Fresnel mount in mind, so this case is a little bit larger because you can't actually fit the Fresnel in it if you buy it. You just have to take this out and it fits here. In the old case, that wasn't really an option. And there's still not, like, you can put the barn doors in here too. There was no way you could do that with the 300s. You can do the Fresnels and the barn doors together at the same time. So these are the power supplies. They both take V-mount batteries. I do have to add on that. They both take 2 V-mount batteries. And the 300D actually works with one. You just had to put it on the red side first, which was the main plate. The 400X does not turn on with one battery. If you only put one battery on and push the button, the screen will say you need 2 batteries. So you have to have 2 matching batteries. And if you want full power, those batteries have to be really, really powerful. They cost like $600 a piece if you go look in B&H that can do sustained 20 amps output. So if you can, you're probably better off getting like a DJI Power 1000 or something similar if you can. If you really, really have to be on the go and small, and you need full power, then the batteries are going to cost you a lot. Most of my batteries can only do 10 amp. I think I have one that can do 12 amp. So in the menu, you have to limit the capacity, which is on the power menu. You can change it from 10, 12, 15, and 20, which limits the power to 50, 60, 75, and 100% based on the types of batteries. There is some type of a protection built in, which I obviously haven't tested, but you can like put the battery on and leave the power at max, but it will detect it. So it somehow detects the power drop or something, or maybe heat, that will shut the light off and tell you that these batteries just not powerful enough to do that. So continuing with the other aspects of the light, you do get some stickers and the warranty card in this little pouch with the 400X. The only thing that this case doesn't have compared to the 300 is there's no pouch here at the top. The 300 cases had a pouch where you can put cables and stuff in there. That is a little bit of a bummer because there is space, like everything is kind of synced down, so there's gaps on top. And this case has a lot of foam on the bottom too, so you could take those out and have even more space, which just gives you more space to put like an extension cord or something like that in here. So if I want to pull the fixture out, the fixture has the same style for the handle, but the front will always come out with it. There's no way to, unless you don't want to use this, this one always comes out with the fixture. So if you want to protect the front, you will have to deal with this. So this is the light fixture of the 400, and I'm going to grab the 300 so we can do some size comparisons here, because that's probably one of the most important things about this whole thing. So here is a 300D Mark II. And here is a 400X side by side. So if I put them both on their basically the COB, their height with the actual yoke is not that much different. The only difference is this one only goes on to a standard light stand, C-stand, basically a baby pin. This one is a baby pin and a combo stand compatible, so it slides into a junior receiver, or you can use it on a baby pin stand. There is a hole to store the screw on the side of the yoke if you're doing it on a combo stand. And that goes in here if you're using it on a regular C-stand. So basically they're the same size as far as their height goes. But you can see how much the 400 is just a fat blob compared to the 300, which is like a longer, sleeker design. The cables all come out in the back for both, so when you flip it around the yoke, it is a problem. It can get stuck here, so you gotta make sure that you route the cable in a way where you have enough tilt for rotations. The other difference, the 300D has 2 fans and a pretty long heatsink. The 400 has 1 bigger fan and a smaller heatsink that's deeper. And if we're comparing the lights, the Bowens mount is pretty much the only other thing that I would mention. We all know how you have to attach, you know, like basically a modifier to a 300D. You have to fiddle with the switch a little bit, and then you rotate it and you hope it clicks and it doesn't fall on anyone. So that's now in the past, which I loved when I saw the 1200X, but that light was gigantic and I did not want to deal with the size. So here is the 400X, which has the locking ProLock mount, which is basically like a PL lens mount for Bowens mount accessories. So you rotate it to the left and you just insert the actual attachment, which could be a light dome as well, or a Fresnel or anything basically. And then you rotate this, and it doesn't need a lot of force. So just rotating it slightly, it's completely secure. It doesn't wiggle like the 300Ds. And then unlocking it the same way. Different accessories will have a different locking rotation amount. So this one, if I show you this from the front, this one goes to about the middle and it's locked. If you put on a light dome or a light dome mini, and I tested a couple other ones, some of them rotated almost all the way before they felt secure. So I'm guessing that's just a different way of design, but they give you a pretty good range of doing this. The one thing you have to be mindful with this is, while you did the same with the other one in the old days with the 300, you have to hold the softbox when you're basically have to rotate it out of the mount when you're releasing the pin. The safety issue with this new version is when you unlock it and you reach the end, there's nothing holding the attachment in anymore. So if you have this on a stand and you're opening this with like 2 hands because it was very much locked down, then the modifier will fall out if it's facing a little bit low. So you still have to remember to hold the modifier with your hand, because as soon as you unlock this, it just comes out. And I've seen people do that with the 1200X before, because if you tighten this down, this is basically a thread that just gets, pushed more, and it's more secure if you put more force into it, but then it also means that it takes more to unlock it. And so if you do that and you have any type of attachment here or softbox, you got to make sure that you're holding it, because it's going to fall out. Other than that, this locking mechanism is far superior to anything before. That is definitely true, because even though I didn't really have a lot of problems with the 300X and 300Ds as far as attaching attachments, I figured the technique out. What I didn't like is the rattle of the accessories, because this is not really actually holding it secure. it is holding it secure by one tiny little pin that you have to unlock here. So none of the other parts of the mount are actually like securing the light boxes or diffusion or spotlights. So if you're using like a Light Dome 3 like this one, this is relatively large, but imagine if you put down a Lantern 90, which is bigger than this, or Aputure 150, which is massive. And then you'll know and just have a bad feeling on like how loose that mount is when you have to put it on. So this is a huge step forward with the ProLock mount, and I love it. Everything about the power supply is also a huge step forward, and everything is IP65 waterproof, so you can leave this out in the rain and it will work. Obviously not on battery. V-mounts are not waterproof, so if you're powering it with AC, it will work fine, and you can leave it out in the rain, no issues there. Testing out some older attachments may cause an issue due to how deep this new COB fixture is. So even though it's not recommended, I am testing some of the older accessories that are probably not going to be used with this, because this is the 2X Fresnel from the 300Ds, which is rated to up to 300 watts, so you should definitely not use it. And it's also, when you attach this, it fits fine as far as the locking mount and everything, but this thing has a plastic like Owens mount structure. The only metal is the one that holds the glass element on the middle and on the front, but in between the two, this is plastic and the mount is plastic on this outside. So I've seen people put this on, and I've seen them posting about it, that they melted the whole mount. So yes, don't use this, or use it at very low power. Maybe in silent mode where the power is limited to 45 watts, it might be okay, but I will not use this with this light because it's not designed for it anyway as far as the beam angles go, and it's very, very risky because this is so close to the glass inside, and because it's plastic, it just melts the thing. So this is the barn door from the 300D series, which can clip on the front of that Fresnel or can be used directly. And this one also fits as far as the mount, or the shallow reflector dish that comes with it. And this reflector dish does not have like glass in the inside. So this is just black in the inside compared to the ones that are actual reflectors. Now this barn door can be attached to the front of the reflector itself, but because this is a smaller size, it isn't ideal. It could be used, it creates a 30-degree beam if you keep the grid on, and it does fit. So I probably could use this as a barn door solution, because I already have them, but the Fresnels definitely won't. And if you're gonna buy the new Fresnels, it will come with the barn door, so this is actually not an issue. The only reason I didn't buy it yet is because that is back ordered significantly. I was able to get this light on August 11, and the Fresnels and the barn doors are back ordered for about the end of September. So, and I didn't really shoot with these anyway. I'm more of a softbox kind of guy, so it wasn't a priority at all to have the Fresnel and the barn doors with me when I got this light. So I mostly use the Light Dome 3 that I have here, and I'm gonna do some tests later on separately. A Light Dome Mini 2, which does have an inner baffle that is the reflective type, so it's silver and gold on one side, and I've always used it that way. I never had an issue, But when I put this on and I did some tests, at 100% I did start smelling something burning, which was super scary. So I immediately turned it off and pulled it off. And I don't know if it's because that baffle is so close to this, and at 100% it's too much, but something in there started burning. And it could have been because it was dusty or something and that burned off. I didn't see any burn marks, but if I smelled inside the softbox, I could smell it's coming from the inside. So I took the baffle out, did another test, perfectly fine. Even though the Light Dome Mini 2 and 3 are all rated for their 600 series lights as well on the compatibility chart, I would assume that it would be perfectly fine. And it is listed as compatible with this light, at least the Light Dome Mini 3. But the only difference between the 2 and the 3 is just the collapsible mount. So there's no difference in size, and even the Light Dome Mini 3 comes with the same internal baffle. So I removed it. I rarely use that softbox. I only use it for like a mobile rolling setup in like conferences. So it's not a priority, and you usually don't max out your light anyway. So I don't think it's going to be an issue going forward. It just was a little scary, and I did my first tests, you know, home with this new light. So other than that, these are the differences. So if you're a user of a 300D Mark II or 300X and you want to upgrade to the Blair engine light, which just gives you so much more flexibility with not just tuning the white itself, which it obviously can compared to the X because it can do green magenta shift, but it also gives you the limited range of colors that they can do in the second mode, which surprisingly gives way more color than I expected. When I tested it at home with the softbox and the lantern, it was way more saturated than I would have ever imagined. So that's a huge plus and a surprise to me, because I mainly bought this to be a bicolor light for myself. I've never owned a bicolor version of the 300Ds, but I've always wanted one because sometimes there's just no way to change the lighting in certain situations and you want to match what they have. So this is why I bought this light, to be able to adjust to certain situations where the lighting is so mixed that I just have to do some metering, figure out the Kelvin and just match it. So that's why this is going to replace my current kit of two 300Ds. So I'll probably end up getting a second one and sell the 300Ds and just run two 400Xs as my main light setup. So thank you for watching this short comparison on these two lights. I've had many years of success with the 300 Mark IIs, and I still love these lights, and I'm not going to forget about them, but it was time for me to upgrade. So going forward, I'm going to use the 400X on every shoot, and I hope maybe it helped you make a decision if you want to upgrade from your light situation to this new Blair engine Aputure STORM 400X.